Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at the Seiko 5 Sports GMT. This particular model is the SSK003. There's also the 001 and 002. The 2 has the orange dial, and 1 is a black dial with black and gray here. So if I get this in the light here, you can see this has black and blue. And I've heard this called the Blueberry, and also some folks call it the Batman. So not sure what I'll call this watch, but I plan on having it in my collection for some time here. I'm a big fan of the Seiko SKX. I have my SKX009 here. I've had this watch in the collection for at least 10 years. So here's a quick look at them side by side, and we'll check out the Lume between these two later on in the video here. In fact, Seiko calls this the Seiko 5 Sports SKX Sports Style GMT series. I'll leave a link to the Seiko website below. You can check that out for yourself. So, also on the Seiko website, they said that this the design of the case and bracelet has been inspired by the SKX, and you can see that here. So this bracelet is much improved. It has solid end links and solid links. The clasp is still a stamped fold over clasp, but you do have dual pushers here. And then the internal portion here is stamped as well. Also you can see this has a display case back of the new 4R34 GMT movement. But here's a quick look at my SKX again. The jangly Jubilee bracelet, very comfortable on wrist, but you can see hollow end links. And the center links are hollow as well. Those are just folded over. And then a similar fold over clasp here. This one is a friction fit. You don't have the dual pushers on the side. So anyway, just a quick look at this compared to the SKX. You see the cases are very similar. The SSK003 does have drilled lugs, a big improvement. I'm a big fan of drilled lugs. But overall, I really like this case shape. I prefer the rounded watch cases. This feels so good. So you can see a mixture of polished and brushed surfaces, just like the SKX. Something that's really different about this watch, and something that really kind of I found weird, but is understandable, and that is the bezel on this. It is a bi-directional bezel. You can rotate it in both directions. And it is a friction fit, so it's really kind of weird because every time I pick up the watch, I'm expecting to have some clicks, turn the bezel to fidget with it, and well, it's nice and quiet. So just a friction fit, but you don't have to worry about the bezel alignment on this. You can alignment just perfectly to your heart's delight. So you may have noticed this bezel insert does have a Hardlex crystal on top of the bezel. It's very neat. It looks like it's black from certain lighting angles, and then you just twist it, and then the blue just pops. So it looks very cool. Actually, the bezel on my SKX009 is blue and red. So Hardlex crystal here, a flat Hardlex crystal. And it does have that date magnifier. I don't mind either way. Take it or leave it. I'd be fine with that either way. I know some folks have probably already taken them off of their watches, but I don't mind it. So let's zoom in on the dial here. You see the applied indices. And we'll check out the Lume later in the video here. I have not actually looked at the Lume myself yet. Nice large red GMT hand there. And you can see right above the 6 o'clock, GMT is in red. The Seiko 5, below the 12 o'clock. Then you can see this actually can track, well, 3 times, or 2 time zones with the GMT. You have the rotating bezel, then you have the GMT scale on the rehaut there, and then of course your normal time through the 12-hour indices. But anyway, I wanted to highlight at the bottom here, it does say made in Japan. Then also you can see there 4R34-00A2. So nice to have a made in Japan Seiko watch. I believe my SKX is made in Malaysia. So anyway, 7S26. Let's take a quick look at the movement since we're here zoomed in. So there we go. You can see some information printed on the case back there. Water resist is 100 meter, 10 bar, stainless steel, and then again the 4R34 movement. I would imagine the crystal on the back is Hardlex as well. All right, let's get this watch on wrist. Still enjoying this thing. Like I said, I'm going to plan on having this in my collection for quite some time here. Looking forward to wearing it on this improved bracelet. What is this, a 5-link bracelet? I know I want to call it a Jubilee, but it's not a Jubilee bracelet. Okay, before we put on wrist, a couple of notes about the movement. So it is, of course, a GMT movement. It is an automatic GMT movement, and for the price of this watch, there's really not much competition right now. The $475 retail, which is what I paid for this watch. Nothing else out there that I'm aware of in the same price range with the same reliability. I know this movement just came out, so not much reliability to track, but the 4R35, 4R36 movements, super reliable. You can go for 10 plus years without servicing the movement, so I have a lot of faith in this movement being reliable as well. The 4R34 movement. So you do have hand winding, you do have hacking, 6 beats per second, and a 41-hour power reserve. So with all of these 5KX style watches here, it's just a push-pull crown. It's not screw down. So first position here, you're hand winding. That is not a signed crown. I think I kind of prefer not to have a screw down crown. It's just easier to access it, and 100 meter water resistance is plenty for me. I think the deepest I've ever been is 10 meter underwater, and actually I wore a Citizen watch and ended up ruining that watch. But anyway, that's a long time ago. We're going to talk about that today. So first position out will be the date set and GMT function. So rotate it, I guess that would be counterclockwise, and the date will change. And then if you rotate it the other way, then the GMT hand will move, and it should move in 1 hour increments. And this is an office GMT. A traveler's GMT, the hour hand would move, so you would just leave the GMT hand in your home time, and then you would adjust the hour hand to the local time of wherever you're at. So let's see here, put this back to 10 o'clock there, and push it back in. Actually, let's adjust the date back to what I had it at too. Should be the 18th of July. There we go. Okay, let's get this on wrist, and then we'll close out the video with a Lume comparison, a Lume shot. We'll compare it to my 10-year-old SKX. If you have not subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and it really helps me out. And you know what, I need to take it back off wrist, and we'll talk about the dimensions. I almost forgot to do that. This watch is a little bit thicker than the SKX. I measured it at 13.8, and I think mine is 13.5, but I have a aftermarket sapphire crystal in that one. I scratched the Hardlex many years ago and just finally replaced it. Okay, let's zoom out here with this watch while it's still on wrist, and then we'll zoom back in and take a look at the dimensions. So the silicone mat in the background there, I use those to size my watch bracelets and any other watch work I'm doing. I have a link for those in the video description. Oop, see, I was trying to pull it off there, just like the old SKX, but this one has the dual pushers on it, so you gotta be careful, otherwise you'll break a nail or, you know, whatever else. Okay, let's get my notes back out here again and talk about the dimensions. So lug to lug, Seiko is great at this on these larger watches, larger diameter. Lug to lug is small at 45.8. And then diameter of the case is 42.5. So any other type of watch, I mean, your lug to lug will probably be about 49.50 with a case this large. But anyway, 45.8 lug to lug, 42.5 case diameter. The bezel I measured in at 41.3 millimeter. The thickness again 13.8 from that flat display case back to the flat hardlex crystal up here. Now if this had a standard stamped steel case back, I would guess the thickness would be less, but for sure the GMT movement will add to the thickness of this watch. 22 millimeter lug width, and this does taper down very nicely to 18 millimeter. So 22 down to 18, nice taper. This is among my favorite style of bracelet, as evidenced by this guy here. Worn this for a long time. Actually, these links here are stretching out on me. I need to try and fix those again one of these days. 7 millimeter crown, and size for my 6.5 inch wrist, 146 grams. So let's check out the lume on this as compared to one of my all-time favorite watches, the Seiko SKX. So before we check out the lume, I also wanted to point out that this SSK003 does have a blue dial. Not sure if you saw that with the studio lighting, but it's a little easier to demonstrate with the flashlight here. And of course, the SKX009 does have a blue dial as well. And I have a real nice picture of this one on Instagram if you want to go check that out. Okay, so here is the lume, and I would say the Seiko 5, the GMT on the left, does have a brighter lume than the SKX on the right here. I don't know if that's because of age. I don't know if the Lume lume loses its brightness over time, or if it's just a better lume formula applied to these watches now. Actually, I'm going to move my SKX off the table, and I'm going to move the handset on the GMT here, because that GMT hand is lumed. I may have to hit it with the UV light again here. So let me hit that real quick. But as you can see, there's a good amount of lume on it right now. That red GMT hand does really glow here, being hit with UV light. Also, you may notice the pip on the bezel is not lumed, just like it is on my SKX here. So that's the difference between a dive watch and a sports watch. You can see the lume pip up there at 12 o'clock on the SKX. And we do not have a lume pip on the bezel for the GMT. And also the 5KX dive style watches don't have a lume pip on the bezel either. Well, as always, thank you for taking the time, and thank you for watching.